with you today with the most badass, awesome women you're ever going to meet, woman-owned business owners from all around Rochester who are here to tell you a little bit about what it means to be a woman-owned business. So, hello ladies, good to see you today. Happy to be with you. Happy to talk to you about all things woman-owned businesses. So, to start us out, I would love to hear from you. Tell us your name, tell us what you do, and tell us 3 words that you would use to describe you. Let's start with you, Jennifer.
Okay, great. Right off the bat. Yes, my name is Jennifer Lathrop, and I am the owner of Sweet Pickle Photography. And I would say 3 words that describe me. Definitely passionate. That's definitely what was the driving force of my business, just being very passionate about not only capturing people in a photo, but telling their story through that image. So definitely very passionate about that. I would also say resilient. My business grew out of being a struggling single mom and having 2 little girls that I had to provide for. And I was not ready to leave them. I did not want to go out of the house and work. And so I decided to start my own business. And why not start with 2 gorgeous little girls to photograph and all their wonderful friends. And so I definitely use that to catapult my business as well. And I would say resourceful. That would be the 3rd word that I would use. Again, just being very driven to make sure that the business was successful, not only for me, but for my children to see that rising from the ashes is not only possible, but it's you can do it by working hard and setting goals. So I would say being very resourceful is very helpful in that.
Love that. Awesome. I wonder if we'll hear some themes as we chat with some of our other woman-owned business owners that maybe have a shared experience. I love that. Megan, let's go to you next.
All right. So I'm Megan Clifford. I own Wellness Associates of Greater Rochester. I'm also a clinical social worker. So I started my business about 7 years ago with the intention of moving towards providing early intervention and prevention education, mental health literacy, anywhere from corporations to nonprofits to municipalities, to be able to really underscore the need to reduce stigma and provide education in the workplace to help companies understand the value of responding to the emotional health of their employees. And I also do quite a bit of crisis management and debriefing. That's something I really have always enjoyed throughout my career. 3 words, authentic to a fault. Not to a fault. Totally fine. I'm not everyone's cup of tea and not everybody's mine, and I'm okay with that. Curious. I'm always very curious, and a connector.
Love that. Thank you. Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Lee. I co-found a personal branding agency called Neogenesis with my business partner. I'm actually based in Vancouver, Canada, so I guess I'm the only Canadian on this call. And I specialize in 1-week brand transformations for entrepreneurs who really want to build their personal brand and do it in a way that feels like them. I feel like we are in this digital age of business where it's so easy for us to say that we're something when we're not. And there's a lot of weird ass fakiness online. You guys, I'm sure you probably feel it. And it gets really hard to be able to tell who's just real and who isn't, especially when it comes to doing business. So just to contribute my efforts to the fight for authenticity, I feel like a lot of the work that I do, it's in full support of us showing up just as we are, not really needing to add any shiny, pretty filters over everything, and have that be enough, and just have that be able to attract the people that you want into your world. So that's a little bit about me. For how I would describe myself, I feel like if you've ever met a very friendly cat, that basically captures what I'm like. I'm playful and I'm very kind for the people that I like, where I would just be like hyper fixate on something and then go down the rabbit hole and like against all odds, I'm just going to focus on that. So there's that other side of me. I just call it weirdly stubborn. That's kind of the other side. But most of the time, I'm pretty playful. I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty kind. Just don't make me angry. Don't piss me off.
I love it. As is true with any nice cat, right? They all have a side. Natasha.
Hello, I'm Natasha McDonald, owner of Nixby Homes. The initials coming from my family's initials, and adding that Y for you. The premise behind my company is that we provide the opportunity in this crazy world for everyone or any of our tenants to have the comfort and dignity of living in a beautiful home. And so that has been my passion and what has driven me to continue to kind of take diamonds in the rough and make them beautiful. If I were going to describe myself in 3 words, I think that driven is one, as well as reserved and thoughtful would be my 3 words.
Love it. I love that you just said that your logo or that your name is your family's initials with a Y at the end for you. I love that. I absolutely love that. If the only thing that people take from this entire video is the essence of what you just said is a woman-owned business, that is the package right there. Like, I absolutely love the thoughtfulness and the creativity that you put into that and like that personal touch. That's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Appreciate that.
And last but certainly not least, Morgan.
I'm Morgan Levy. I am the owner of the J. Morgan Levy firm, which is a law firm that focuses on civil rights and employment matters. We represent primarily small women-owned, minority-owned businesses and also individuals who need to assert their civil rights because someone is not attending to them. So it's a really interesting time to be a civil rights lawyer. I feel very passionate that I am confident that I made the right choice in my profession, which was not to go immediately from law school to practicing law. I worked in higher ed for a really long time. And that experience has really helped me, I think, better understand how larger systems work and can help my clients navigate those systems when they feel as though they're being treated inappropriately. 3 words to describe me. Relentless, I think, would be the first word. When I feel that someone has been treated unfairly, when there has been something that is wrong, that has happened to a client of mine, someone I care about, I am relentless. I will fight that till the day I die, because there's no other reason to do this work unless you're in it all the way. Also resilience. I would certainly characterize myself as that way as well. I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life, a lot of turns that I did not anticipate making, and each one has made me a stronger, better mom, wife, business owner, etc. And then the last word I would say is empathetic. And I think that the empathy that I have for my clients is one of the strengths that I bring to the table as an attorney. I think a lot of people have relationships with their lawyers that are very transactional, very surface. And I think that I can do a much better job as a lawyer when people are feeling like they're in a space that's free enough for them and feels safe enough for them to share their entire story and show their full selves with me.
Love that. So I can tell you, knowing each of you personally and engaging with each of you personally, it's so powerful and awesome for me to hear you describe yourselves in the 3 words that you would use. Because as you're going through the 3 words, I'm like, absolutely. Yep, 100%. That's a word I would use too. And it's just so clear to me that in this 6-box discussion that we're having here, that women-owned business owners almost are forced to have to know who they are really well in order to put themselves out there into the rest of the world. Because you're going to be picked apart, you're going to be asked questions, you're going to be judged unfairly, you're going to be held to a different standard. And if you yourself are not real clear about what those 3 words are, who you are, what your motivation is, what has driven you, and why you are doing what you are doing, the rest of it just gets a little mucky, right? And so it's just so cool to me to hear you all describe yourselves in ways that not one of you said a word that I was like, oh, interesting. I don't think I would say that. It's really cool to be a part of that. So my name is Erin Halligan Avery. I'm the owner of Concern Center. I created Concern Center when I was a case manager in higher education. Had a 141% increase in number of students coming to my office who needed support services, and I was just one single solitary person there to help them. I had to duplicate myself in whatever possible way I could because people needed help, and I only had so many hours in the day. So I took to a friend I knew from high school and said, will you create me this idea that I have into a technology solution? That then is honestly what changed my life. I just thought I was creating it to help myself out in my job at the time. And it turns out that it's now turned into a tech solution that helps over 3.5 million people nationwide find the help that they need for mental health and other resources. And so I can tell you, I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I joke constantly that a lot of my personality characteristics are probably not the ones that you would look to if you wanted someone to be running your business. But here I am doing it alongside people that I care about greatly. And the 3 words that I would use, thanks to Rachel, who recently did my own personal brand. I have to tell you, one of the most fun things I have done was work with Rachel to develop my personal brand. One of the words we came up with was candid. And I loved that. I felt like candid is a word that doesn't mean harsh or preachy or in your face, but I'm not someone who's going to mince words because I care very deeply about what your experience is. The other word was sincere. So I think I am very much someone who cares and comes from a very deep, highly sensitive place of caring about what your experience is. And one of my other words that we came up with was bold. And bold is one that I don't know if I always would have associated with myself, but especially in the last 3 to 4 years of my business ownership and stepping into my light a little bit more, I would say I am fierce in ways that I had no idea I was capable of being fierce. And I'm really excited to be sort of paving that way for other women who also are going to follow in some of those footsteps. So really excited to be here with you all today. Let's move on to our first question. And as you all know, this will be for all of us. So let's engage with one another. I'll pose the question, but let's just throw it out there and have a real open, candid discussion as women-owned business owners who are trying to tackle the world one question at a time. So what unique strengths do you think women bring to business leadership and entrepreneurship?
So I've been thinking about this question for a little bit, and I think the ability to sit with multiple priorities and calmly delegate and plan for how to address those multiple priorities. I think it is a uniquely female attribute, which probably men watching this will not like me saying that, but that's okay. It's probably not for you anyway. I think that there's so many, even before I was a mom, I feel like I was very used to putting on different hats, of I'm a daughter, I'm a caretaker for my mother, now I'm the professional in the workplace. And I just think there's a lot of expectations that are put on women about what our roles are supposed to be. And because of that, we have to be really good at prioritizing equally important issues and figuring out how to address those as well. I also think that the sense of collaboration is more present in women that I work with than men overall. I think that there's a natural, or maybe it's not natural, maybe it's just an adaptive understanding that we need to be collaborative in order to solve problems, and trying to be the super shiniest star is not going to get the job done. We need to work together.
Well, I can piggyback real quick off what Morgan just said, just very briefly. So what I hear, especially for me as a psychotherapist and some of the modalities that I use, is women tend to be more psychologically flexible. And that is because we have demands from all different areas and all senses of our identity. So we have been forced to become, more psychologically flexible. That's definitely something I think. And then just to piggyback up the collaboration, the way that I have thought about it, at least in my field, and perceived competition, there's enough pie for everybody. And what I do, there is enough pie, there is enough need. So rather than looking at you directly as my competition, and I said, how can we work together to meet this need? And that has actually served me very well.
I think we somehow along the way became wired to get stuff done. And so in there is this innate sense that there's no plan B. Like, I just have to do it. And whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing at any given time, somehow we have evolved to be the ones that have the solution in many instances. And I also attribute that to the need to constantly be aware. We know when we walk into a room that we are scoping out the scene for various things that sometimes our counterparts don't have to or don't choose to. And so that gives us a unique lens into what is actually happening and the ability to show up with a solution in many cases. And so I have recently just embraced it. I don't have to be at the front. I don't have to be the loudest. I don't have to be any of those things. But I am here often with a reasonable solution.
I love how you said there is no plan B. That is literally what I told myself when I quit my full-time job and I just jumped straight into my business. I'm like, there is no plan B. I'm just going to have to make it work. I have no idea what the I'm doing, but we're going to make it happen. So I love that you said that.
Interesting. I'm sitting here thinking there's an innate sensitivity and care and love that women have that is like in their bones, that sort of comes out in the work that they do. Again, whether they're a photographer, whether they're a therapist, whether they're selling houses, whatever there is this unique and personal touch that comes out. And I've spent a lot of my career trying to figure out how to harness that in a way that is really authentic, but also still has really clear boundaries around it. And I think when you have the ability to harness the beauty of a highly sensitive, emotional, caring, loving human being and harness that in a way that also has right alongside it, like the badass properties of running a business and making money and doing what you need to do for the world, that's unstoppable in my mind. And for me, the entrepreneurial trait that women have, that innate sense of care and being, is what I hear in all of your businesses and a lot of the other businesses I know about that are woman-owned. It just touches differently. It feels different. It pays attention. It cares bigger. It's more sensitive. It's going to pay attention to the unique details of what it is that you need in a way that will see you different than just a standard business. And when you can harness that, I just think that's the power for me of entrepreneurship and what women bring to business that is different and unique and powerful.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to jump off of that. I think that, I hear what you're saying, that, when we are creating something, it is out of a passion, it is out of a desire, it is out of something so deep within us. It's in it, and it comes from, I guess, just that sometimes a depth of despair and sometimes a need for creating something new for yourself. So I think that I can say for me, and I think for a few others, it's also been, like for you, it wasn't about creating a business. It was creating something meaningful and powerful and useful and something that you can utilize to share your gifts with the world.
Love it. I love that.
And just to piggyback off of that too, I feel like one thing that I've noticed, and I mean, compared to you guys, I've only been in business for the 6 years, but from what I've seen, and I have both amazing men and women that I have met throughout the course of my journey, I feel like women, we have this ability to just humanize business. I feel like we often approach business from a very pragmatic perspective. Like, let's get shit done. How can we make it faster, better, stronger? Like all of these, it's very driven. But I feel, at least for myself, even as I've tried to build my business in a way that feels good to me, I often find myself asking the question, but what about the humans? What about me? What about the people? And how can we do this business thing faster and more efficient and make it grow and make it better, but also do it without leaving the people behind? Like, I'm building this business to serve people. What about taking care of the emotions and how people are feeling and how am I feeling and all of those questions? Like, I've tried to ignore it in the first few years of my business because I thought, oh, that's not practical. I don't need that. But the more that I do this work, I realize that I built my business to help people. And if I don't address the emotional, mushy, human, messy side of it, then I'm not doing it right. Like, I miss 50% of the mark when I don't include that in. So I feel like women were just more, we tend to ask those questions more because we feel very deeply. And I feel like we can't really fully get away from it, even if the work that we do is like, we got to get it done. We got to get it done fast and harder and faster and stronger and all of those things.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Like, I was just thinking this. I mean, I think it's because we know that it's better. You can't do it faster, stronger, more productive without attending to those needs. So like, I mean, I think of like just this week, I brought in someone to do meditation for my staff because I was like, we are all spinning. Our little New York Times, thing is popping up everywhere. And we're like in the middle of our cases, but we're also thinking about all this terribleness that's happening in the world. And was like, okay, we need to have a meditation session. So we took an hour, had someone come in, do meditation. And then that afternoon, we all were like, oh, we can do our work right now. Like, we can actually focus on what it is that we're doing. It's because we know that you can't divest emotion from our workplaces. It just doesn't work. It's not productive.
Yeah. Sorry, Jennifer. I was here. We can cut that off. And I think many women business owners try and struggle with the fact that they have this innate part of who they are as people, but that's not always welcomed. But what I'm hearing you say, Morgan, is you can, and it's not as great of a product. You can, and it doesn't change the world in the same way. You can, and it doesn't make the impact, right? And so, yes, it might not fit in this entrepreneurial, very thin sort of veil of what it is to be a business owner and how you're supposed to do it. But that's maybe one of the unique things that women do in business is not separate those two things, because you certainly can. And I know for a fact we have all been a part of work environments that have done just that have taken the person and put it over here, taken the business practices and put it over here. And we've all been like, this isn't it. This isn't where it is that we ultimately need to be. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to anyone, right? So to be fair, you can. Women just know it's not a great idea. Probably shouldn't throw that. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about barriers. So the journey has not been without challenges for any of us. And so specifically, I'm interested in gender-based barriers in your business. Have you faced any? And if so, how did you navigate these gender-based barriers in your business?
I know I just started last time, but I'm just going to start again because this is just so timely for me right in this moment. I have a younger associate who we had a call yesterday where she was like, why do these men treat me this way? Why, like, she's younger, she's very pretty, but for some reason, like, she gets onto Zoom calls or Teams calls and they immediately start to condescend and, you know, talk down to, I think it's because she does approach things from a collaborative perspective. She does say like, okay, we've got this dispute about discovery. Let's figure out what we can do to resolve it. And they see that as a weakness or and I mean, the law is a very male dominated field. It always has been. And there's a lot of just structural things to it that have been difficult for women to get into. But I think for me, when I first started practicing, I always have been able to work very well with female attorneys. When my opposing counsel is a woman, like we solve shit. Like we just figure it out. We might end up having to go to trial, but like there's not animosity. I don't have any animosity. But typically with male attorneys, there always becomes a point at which I'm like, no, I'm sorry, but you're just wrong on the law with this issue. And instead of them being curious about maybe I'm wrong on the law about this issue, they will dig their heels in and then start to be kind of condescending. So I think that for me, what helps is I'm always going to adopt that curious approach when I'm in a conflict, because that's a more productive way for me to get a problem solved. But when other people, mostly men, don't do that to me or don't do it to my colleagues, we have to be secure enough in ourselves to know that this is not my stuff that is coming to the table right now. That is that person's stuff that's coming to the table. And the thing that really struck us this week, she had two different male opposing counsels talk in an email where she was like, hey, you're wrong about this issue, blah, blah, blah. They had responded with, oh, we've always had such a good relationship. We want to make sure we keep that. And she's like, this has nothing to do with our relationship. Like, why would they say that? Like, I'm literally just saying here's the law that shows that you're wrong about it. And I don't know if it's like an intentional attempt to manipulate or if it's they're so ingrained in this view of what women attorneys should be, or that they're so arrogant they think they're right all the time. I don't know. I shouldn't characterize not all men. There are some male opposing counsel that I do have a really good working relationship with. But when we don't have a good relationship with someone, when it is typically a man, and it is typically because of this issue of, instead of them having a curious, maybe I'm wrong about this, they will fight it and waste a lot of time and money. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, but.
No, that's interesting. And I wonder how much of that is your area of work specific compared to how that relates to your other areas of work. Do any of you struggle with something similar, or is it a different hurdle that you try and overcome?
I feel like it's been challenging, at least specifically for being a woman in business who's younger, attending networking events. Before, I did it a lot in person, before everything went online. And I've outright had people just ask me at networking events if I was single. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know if my relationship status is related to the work that I do. I'm sure guys don't ask other guys that question. So it's just weird, because sometimes you go in and you're like, I'm here to do good work. I'm here to find people to support and help with my business. I'm here to collaborate. And you go into these events with that headspace. And then you have sometimes, most of the time this doesn't happen to me, but sometimes like I would have a lot of older men look at me, and the way that they talk to you, it's not explicitly said, but it's, oh, how cute. You're here to change the world with your tiny little business. And it's just, it feels a little condescending. Like you can kind of hear it in the tone of voice or the way that they look at you or the questions that they ask. I very rarely have somebody who's upfront really rude or direct about it, but I read between the lines. I'm like, you can't bullshit me, and I don't appreciate the way that you are talking to me right now and what's implied with the way that you're speaking to me. So I've kind of come across that, and it just makes me feel really uncomfortable. In the beginning, I would just try to like laugh it off and just crack a joke and kind of slip it under the table. But more recently, I've just taken to being more direct and calling them out and being like, "Hey, like I don't appreciate the way that you just said that." And just straight up call it out for what it is. But I have encountered that, thankfully, a little less over the years. I don't know if it's just because I look a little older than I was back when I first started business. But it has been something that I've come across more than once, and it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I think I have encountered this quite a bit, and I feel actually the opposite in that I'm starting to encounter it more now as I continue to grow. In contractors, I don't know, a majority of the people that I work with are male, and I have found that any degree of pushback or expectation or any of that type of thing is usually met with surprise or disgust or unreasonableness. And so it does require a degree of steadfastness, but also the human side to it. Like I may go cry in the car, but I'm not about to do that right here with you. And so really talking through it myself to say, you're not being unreasonable. To have expectations is not unreasonable. To expect excellence is not unreasonable. To expect a service when I'm paying for it is not unreasonable. And so no matter how much they may try to make you feel that way or act like you're being a royal pain in the behind, I have just embraced the idea that if that's how you see it, that's fine. But I do have expectations and my money spends just like anyone else's. And so here we are.
Wow. That one hit for me. That really hit for me because I was thinking, gosh, I've definitely navigated my own storms, but what's it? Like what is the storm? And related to yours, Natasha, it's that my time and my expertise is not as valuable as other people's time and expertise. So it's expected that if I need to make an appointment with, for instance, a male CEO, I'm going to be booked out about 3 to 4 weeks. But if someone wants to make an appointment with me, I better clear the rest of my calendar because today's Thursday. I need to meet with you before the end of the week. And I've noticed myself historically being like, I probably should clear my calendar because this is important and I probably should find the time. Up until about a year ago when finally it was actually another female entrepreneur who we were asking for time from, who basically had the nicest, nastiest email response that was basically like, I'm really busy. I'm really important. I don't have time for this, but I wish you well, was essentially what the response was. But it was written in this beautiful way. And at first it hit me. It felt like a punch to the gut. And I was like, oh, I didn't love that. And then I read it and read it and read it. I think I read it 2 weeks ago just to remind myself how badass that email was. And I'm like, she took up some space. She took herself up some space because she said, I'm sorry, I'm not at everyone's beck and call to be doing what it is that you need me to do whenever I need it and to fill in for you and to do your keynote speech for $500 and to come out here and do this volunteer work for you because I'm a kind person. In fact, I'm not available and I'm not available until next month. The next month when I am available, I'm not available for more than 30 minutes. And in that 30 minutes, we better get straight to the point because I got places that I have to be. And so for me, it's related to that excellence and expectation of like, that's what I give you every day. I do not sit at this keyboard and give anyone less than 100% of my effort every single day. If I'm not giving 100%, I'm not sitting at this keyboard. So when I go to expect that out of someone else, or when I go to expect someone's time, or when I go to try and figure out how my time fits into that, it's trying to figure out how my expectations are equally as important as the other person's expectations. So I've had to navigate that both within myself and also externally with other people's sort of explicit and implicit responses to my time, my availability, my talents, my value, how much I'm worth, how much they want to pay me for something, you know? I've worked through that too. So mine's similar to yours, Natasha. Jennifer and Megan, anything from you guys?
I think for me, I'm in a little bit of a different situation being the field that I'm in. I started my business because of significant gender-based barriers. In my previous position, I felt I was being assertive. I knew my lane, my expertise as a mental health professional in this system that didn't have a lot of mental health professionals. And it was men, older Gen X baby boomer men who was like, nah, you're difficult. You're too much. And I'm like, okay, but I'm somebody who is very grounded and very self-reflective. I know what my values are. I know why I'm doing it. You know, what I want. Like, Erin, I'm going to give you 110% because I believe in what I'm doing. So I will in situations where I do know that I know what's right in this situation. I will be assertive. And I was quickly labeled as difficult, blah, 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 blah. And it just felt so yucky. And I was in a situation where it was kind of, if you're familiar with that kind of golden handcuffs kind of situation, where it was like, okay, if I speak up, I'm at risk of losing something. And I too was a single mom. So for me, moving into the situation that I'm in, where I do primarily work with women and women in HR and all this beautiful collaboration, it's been so, so refreshing. So me leaving that behind, even though it was challenging, was the best thing I ever did for myself professionally.
Erin, you said something though that has stuck with me about what you deal with navigating it internally as well as externally. And it just made me think that some of the most difficult times that I have had has not been a result of the interaction with the person where I still believe that I was appropriate and reasonable and right. But then to myself of saying like, am I a good person? Am I a good person when I hold the line? Am I a good person when I push back? Am I still, so that internal struggle about how do I still be a good person, but also make sure that I'm not being taken advantage of and that I'm being fair and decent and reasonable. And at the end of the day, the answer is usually yes. It's usually yeah. And you recognize that you are potentially being taken advantage of, or someone is trying to, I forget the phrase.
Gaslight.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. It just randomly came up. I don't know where that came from. I don't know. Yeah, the right answer. That's great. Well, ladies, let's close down our conversation today with what I think is going to be both fun and something that may be a little reflective for us now and maybe in 5 years when we go to watch this video back about how far we've come. So what advice would you give to other women who want to start or scale their own business?
I'd say that the most important thing is to know who you are and what you bring to the table and not let anyone else ever tell you otherwise. I feel like just throughout the course of my journey, I am a recovering people pleaser, and I took that into my business, being a helper and wanting to just use my gifts to help everybody. In the first few years, I got walked all over and I allowed other people to tell me, hey, I need this. Can you be this for me? Can you do that? And to the point where I didn't even know what I ran as a business anymore, because it was just what everyone else wanted to see from me and not what I wanted to create for myself. And I let it not just shape my business, but the way that I showed up as a person. And it took a very long time for me to reroute the way that I saw it when my boundaries got stepped over so much that I didn't know where they were anymore. And when I decided to rewrite that, it was hard and it I think it's the hardest when you start to set boundaries and then people aren't used to it anymore. And they're like, oh, but you used to be so nice. I'm like, I am still nice, but I am learning to be nice to myself now, not just to other people. So I feel like just understanding what you bring to the table and valuing yourself just as much as you value your clients and customers is very, very important. I'm still getting better at setting those boundaries. I'm still learning. I'm still figuring it out. There are still times where I do accidentally let it slip by and I'm like, shit, like I did the thing again, but it's a work in progress. Learning to be kinder to myself, I think throughout this whole process is a huge thing. And just understanding that whatever you put in is enough. If you put in 100%, like that is enough, and like not to let any other people tell you otherwise. So that's the self-talk that I give myself every time I f up, and I'm like, it's okay. You're okay. You did it good. So yeah, that's
Self-discussion therapy world, right, Erin? And say to somebody else who was doing that, right?
That's right. So much easier to tell other people than it is when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, right? Especially when you're on the challenging journey. Yeah.
I definitely agreed with everything that Rachel said. I think that, oh my gosh, the authenticity, you really have to show up authentically. You really have to be your true self. Also, knowing your worth. That's huge. You really have to know your worth. In addition to that, I would say take risks. You have to take risks. If you don't take risks, you have no idea how powerful you are, and you have no idea how much people will receive, how they will feel when they receive what you are providing to them. You know, my business is and it's photography, but based on how people feel when they look at the images. They have to be able to be vulnerable in the session. So that requires me getting to know them, which requires a lot of work ahead of time. And also at the session, I don't just show up with a camera and take pictures. I show up as a human being looking to connect with another human being, and really on a very true, authentic and intimate level. So that's definitely something that you really have to show up authentically, and that really opens the door for other people to be authentic. And really those risks, I mean, you'll never start if you don't take risks. So, taking those risks is just so huge when it comes to being a business owner. And I think it all just wraps into one: being authentic, taking risks, and knowing your worth. Those are the biggest things I would say after few years.
Love it. Yeah, I really that resonates with me quite a bit. I'm in mental health. I'm a social worker, right? And people immediately think, oh well, they'll work for less, right? Oh, they've got the big heart. They won't charge us as much. And getting to a space where I was like, I have 25 years of expertise in this. I need to charge what I'm worth. I need to say, like, this is what not just, okay, I can do this training for you. You're getting all of that. I'm giving that to you, right? Yeah, you could go hire somebody else to just read slides to somebody for training, but this is what you're getting from me. And this is, what your pain point, those kinds of things. This is why I'm going to bring the value add to you. And then another concrete thing that I learned through building my business, this is a practical point. I think I don't know how you all feel, but when I started out, there was the scarcity mindset, right? I've got to do this. I've got to pay my bills, And it was finally when I was just like, okay, stop, take a breath. This is kind of that SWOT thing people don't do, right? I was like, I am terrible with tech. I still can't make a presentation that's, Canva wonderful, right? I am terrible with bookkeeping. Like I just can't keep up with those things. So rather than working hard and trying to do that with the scarcity mindset, I sat down and was like, this is worth me investing in somebody who has expertise with this, right? And it then enabled me to make more money doing what I was really good at. So I think shifting from the working really hard to working smart was really a pivotal change for me. And I feel now more than me just working for my business. My business is working for me. And that took time. But I think that was a really important thing for me to do. And through this collaboration, these networks, everyone I contract with is a woman from these relationships. So I'm supporting them, they're supporting me. And that I love. And of course, and we look, oh, I really love this bookkeeper, and I'm going to tell everybody else, right?
Yeah. I love that.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Well, that's what I get for not going first, because everything, I'm like that and that and that. It's the only other thing that I would add, which has also already basically been said, is with my sons being athletes, sometimes they go to training, and one of the coaches had a phrase that he was using. The acronym, ironically, is for boy, but it is bet on yourself. And I have just clung on to that idea. We put so much energy, effort, resources into those around us and making them better and all of that stuff. But it is important that we bet on ourselves. I used this model at work when I wasn't sure if I wanted to say something, or did I want to raise my hand or add a point, that sometimes we deprive the world of our uniqueness, our genius, our energy, whatever it is. So not only is it a burden, or it's not always a burden, but it is an opportunity. And when we don't take the opportunity, then we deprive the world of us. And who wants to go to sleep knowing that we have held that or withheld something that is so important for this community around us? So that is the way that I reframe when I get nervous about how people will react or respond. Is, well, if I don't share my unique perspective, then they lose out.
Amen. I love that, Nasha. Wow. That was great.
I love that.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I would add is this. When I started my business officially in 2018, I was very positive that by 2020, it would be a hit, it would be a success, it would be everywhere that it needed to be, and that I would be hiring a bunch of different people, and that everyone would be living happily ever after. 2 beautiful years after we had started. And here we are in 2025. So how many years has that been? 7 years. And my advice would be, it is a journey that it's more about who you are and who you are becoming than it even is about your business. And slowly but surely, I thought I was going to have it all figured out, and I had all the answers, and it was supposed to be really easy because you put these different things together, and how could they not just produce something that was so beautiful and wonderful? And then every time that wasn't the case, and there were plenty of times it wasn't, I was confused and I was angry and I doubted myself, and I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. And I would say, trust the process and trust the journey, because you will gain so much more about who you are and who you're going to be by being on this business journey that you could ever learn in any other experience that you would ever have in life. And on my most difficult days, I imagine myself having sold my business for multiple millions of dollars. And then after I get back from my cruise or whatever trip to Aruba I'm going to take for at least a week, probably 2, I imagine myself coming back, and I literally picture myself at one of those stands at a graduation ceremony where I'm speaking to college graduates, and their one question is, tell us, Erin, what advice do you have for these graduates who are going out into the world? And I literally picture myself standing at this stupid little thing with my stupid little gown on, talking to people about what I would say. And I reflect on the journey, I reflect on what my experience has been, I reflect on how difficult difficult it was. None of it is about make sure you reach this metric, make sure that you spend this much money on this much thing by this much time. It is not any part of that is in the graduation speech, the hypothetical one that I plan to give, right? It's all about the journey and knowing yourself and figuring out who you were along the way. So that's my advice, is imagine yourself at your end point and what are you saying and what are you doing then? And then work yourself back to figure out how you can get there. I loved being with you all today, and I'm going to end us with reading you the words that you all said at the very beginning about what it is to be a woman-owned business, because I want to leave you today with all of the beautiful adjectives that you use to describe who you are and who women-owned businesses are. It is my absolute belief that women-owned businesses are what changes the world. I am so happy to know all of you. I consider myself so lucky to be in conversations with you all regularly and to share this life with you. So I just want to leave you with all of the beautiful adjectives we use to describe each other and our thoughts on women-owned businesses. Resourceful, passionate, authentic to a fault, curious, connector, playful, kind, stubborn, chill, driven, reserved, thoughtful, relentless, resilient, empathetic, candid, bold, and sincere. That is what it means to be a woman-owned business. So thank you, ladies, for being with me today and representing women-owned businesses all over, particularly in the Rochester area. And thanks. I hope you all have a wonderful day.